6:04.
Welcome, everyone. This is the February 9th meeting of the Conservation Advisory Council. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:05 p.m. My name is Julie Noble, and I am the chair of the Conservation Advisory Council. And with me, we also have council members Lorraine Farina, Kevin McAvoy, and Sebastian Pilateri. Excused tonight are Emily Hauser and also our Common Council liaison, Michelle Hirsch. We also have a guest tonight, Marco Spodek. Marco, did you want to make any comments for the record?
No, thank you.
Okay, welcome. And I do want to just note that since our last meeting, Betta Broad, who was a council member for a long time, has decided not to renew her position on the Conservation Advisory Council, and I do want to thank her on the record for her service to the council. She also serves on the Climate Smart Kingston Commission and will be focusing her time there. So welcome, everyone. Are there any and Emily is not going to be here tonight. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
I had a quick question. If we could add, I don't know what the exact, if we can add a time to talk about, I want to talk about septic code for the city of Kingston. Just ask.
The code in general?
Specifically private septic systems within the city of Kingston, and ask if we would be willing to maybe think about requesting policy from the Common Council to require inspections before the sale of homes.
Okay, I guess that's a motion to add that to new business. Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, sure.
Okay. Any discussion or concern? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we will add that to new business as C. Any other modifications? Okay, so we will move on to review and approval of the January 2021 monthly meeting minutes. Kevin, thank you for putting these together. So Lorraine submitted a few comments, clarification. Thanks for doing that. Does anyone else have any other comments, questions, or concerns? If not, we need a motion to accept the January 12th, 2021 minutes as amended.
Motion to accept.
Okay, Lorraine, can I get a second? I will second.
Okay.
And any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to old business. Lorraine, Wood Smoke and Air Quality Subcommittee.
Okay, let's see. All right. Well, CACI has completed 1 year of monitoring particulate matter pollution with the large particle counter on top of the Andy Murphy Center. And the team has been meeting to prepare a press release and explanatory information that will have links to both the CAC website and the Bard Center for the Study of Land, Air, and Water for residents to view. CACI is also continuing to work on a process for addressing air quality complaints received by the city. And I wanted to just ask Marco if he had anything to add to those things before I moved on to other things.
Yeah, thanks, Lorraine. Yes, so I'm actually working on the content for the city website as we speak. It's starting to shape up nicely, I think. It should be ready in the next week or so, I think. The Bard website is starting, or the Bard web content is starting to be created as well. there are some meetings later this week um, to iron out some details, but it's primarily going to be linked to, as Lorraine said, from the Kingston website. If people want to click on a figure and get some more context about the data / how it was collected, as well as view some other figures that also further contextualize the entire project, they'll be able to do so there. With regard to the complaints from community members, or not complaints, concerns from community members, Lindsay, Drew, and I have been in contact with a couple households in Kingston. We're planning some site visits for later this week to discuss outdoor monitor placement. And the trial period, once the monitors are deployed, will be anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. At the end, we'll have folks keep daily journals as well, so they can sort of monitor, or so they can report any specifics that they think may be relevant. That could be neighbors burning, that could be just general presence of smoke. And it's also meant for them to sort of outline household activities that they may be participating in throughout the day that could further contextualize the data. So if we have any spikes and particulates that are short and correlate to a time in the diary that they say that they were cooking or cleaning or something, we can sort of make those assumptions. There'll also be a section on the daily diary. This will be online for them to submit photos and any other information they think is necessary. At the end of the trial period, we'll take the data, we will run some preliminary analysis, create some visualizations, and then share it with the community members. And this is just the first set of these kinds of monitoring efforts that we're going to be doing on sort of like a neighborhood to neighborhood scale. I think that's it. Bard has a Google form, or we will be putting a Google form on our website where folks who have these kinds of concerns can get directed to sort of submit a request for monitoring or just further discussion in general. Oh, and the last thing is the monitor. There will be a weather station placed soon on top of the Andy Murphy Center to help contextualize our particulate monitoring. And I know I've been saying this for a while, but it actually is going to happen soon. And we will also be putting a new particulate monitor up there relatively soon as well, just as soon as it's safe to get up on the roof because of all the snow. And that one is going to be in place while we take the other one down to sort of make a few repairs and sort of updates and things like that. And then that one will be returned to the site. We'll have them up together so we can collate the data. And hopefully we'll come up with solutions for keeping the current monitor running long term, because it's giving us some technical difficulties right now. But I think that's it. Lorraine, can you think of anything?
Yeah. Thank you. That's yeah, very good information. Okay, so to continue the air quality report, I wanted to mention to everybody that Bill McKibben wrote a piece just recently for the New Yorker entitled "To Counter Climate Change, We Need to Stop Burning Things." And it explains how the cutting of trees and the burning of biomass and wood contribute to both climate change and pollution. So I'll send a link for that. And the final thing I wanted to mention is that, excuse me, the New York State DEC sends a newsletter every month called the Airmail newsletter. And this month's newsletter, this January's rather, has some statements that I think would bear looking at as a CAC. So I'll just mention those briefly. States that New Yorkers who are now using clean energy, heat energy sources like air source heat pumps are contributing to higher peak demand for electricity. And then extra electricity must be generated. And then it states that peaker plants that are in use for this purpose are very polluting, and that people need to therefore reduce their electricity consumption. So this may very well have the effect of making residents believe they shouldn't be using these new clean energy sources, rather than making clear that the CLCPA charges the state with transitioning to clean power, and that the electricity, including peaker plants, can and should be sourced from clean power sources such as solar and wind, and that the state should be investing in battery storage for these kinds of energy to minimize the need for use of peaker plants. There's a second item in this newsletter that is also could also be misleading to New York State residents. It describes how and why industrial smokestacks can allow pollutants to be trapped close to the ground if stacks are, quote, too low. The implication is that they will not pollute if the stacks are raised. It then states that home chimneys and stovepipes should be cleaned for safety, but doesn't mention anything about pollution from burning wood and stoves, but directs people to the NYSERDA website, which incentivizes wood and biomass burning. So the Air Quality Subcommittee suggests that the CAC write a letter emphasizing the state's responsibility to help residents move toward clean energy, pointing out that newsletters such as this one serve to confuse rather than encourage residents in moving toward clean energy use, and asking that future newsletters work toward goals consistent with the CLCPA. And I would volunteer to draft it if people agree that it's a good idea to do that. So I'll just ask you all what you think.
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay.
Sebastian, do you have any feeling on that?
Seems
Drafting a
okay
letter?
to me.
Okay. It's fine with me too. So if you want to then draft a letter, do you want to do that offline, or do you want to approve that at the next meeting?
I didn't hear that verb. Do I want to, do the letter at the, I can do it before the next meeting. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. And I'll bring it to the next meeting. Does that sound good?
You'll bring a draft to the next meeting.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Thank you. And
Okay.
that's it for my report.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Julie, you're muted.
Not hearing
Alright.
anything.
The NRI and Open Space Project and Conservation Board. I am going to be sitting on a New York State DEC webinar for natural resource inventories on February 2nd. No, that's not right.
Maybe I'm-
February 23rd, a Conservation and Land Use 101 webinar about open space plans and natural resource inventories. And so I'm going to be one of the speakers going over our open space plan and how our natural resources inventory informed our open space plan. So I'm part of a panel doing that. And so I can send around the link. Maybe I can put the link in the chat for that. I don't know if anyone made any headway on anything else related to the NRI and Open Space Plan project. Kevin?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I registered for February 23rd. My calendar is kind of crazy, but I did register for it. So maybe I'll see you there. Yeah, I started looking, I looked at New Paltz pretty carefully, and then I looked at Bedford even more carefully, and I ran into something of an issue, and I've got to speak to Simon, I think, or at least email him and try to get some clarification as to the enabling legislation that was done. I had difficulty finding it on the Bedford website, and it's probably because they did this so many years ago. They were the first one, as far as I know.
Yep, they've been there for a long time, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of references to it. Then there's also, I think there's a wetlands committee and yeah, the CAC and the wetlands committee sort of go like that. And then sometimes they go like that. And then the planning board comes in like this, and it's a little bit of a different setup than what we have in Kingston. So if I could find the enabling legislation, I think I could sort the whole thing out, or maybe Simon could just tell me off the top of his head.
Right.
Yeah, which he probably can. And it might inform our situation greatly. And I was running into like an enabling legislation thing in New Paltz too. There is some information there, but I'm trying to determine what their powers are. What did the town board actually grant this board a permission to do? Is it the full 239Y, or is it only certain reviews and their advisory and others? That was part of the Bedford problem as well. I saw the word advisory used a few times and I was like, that's interesting. But that might be just advisory on wetlands, that they advise the wetlands board, which advises the planning board. And so you follow where I'm going. I'm trying to figure out 239Y is the New York State municipal law section that governs conservation board, as opposed to, and it's 239X governs a conservation council, which is what we are. And I think that's what most of these groups are. So this is ongoing, and I haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, but we're making progress. At least we're identified what the issues are. So so we have the questions, and then once we have somebody to answer them, yeah, we'll know how to proceed. But then we'll have to determine if we want to proceed. That's a whole nother question. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I also do want to note that, and I could put the link in the chat here as well, is that in the latest Hudson River Watershed Alliance Watershed Digest monthly newsletter, which I received yesterday digitally, there's a whole big highlight about the New Paltz Conservation Preservation Fund and a link to all of their whole work on that. And it was super helpful. It outlined their whole entire process for that. Their work, it links to their community preservation plan that they put together, which would be helpful if we move in that direction, survey that they did. So I will forward that to everyone, so you can, if you didn't get a chance to see it, you can see that. All right, anything else on that topic?
We're good till next time.
Okay. Council appointments and vacancies. As you see, we have 5 folks on our Conservation Advisory Council. Our enabling legislation permits 5 to 9. And I got clarification today as to what quorum constitutes quorum. And since it ranges from 5 to 9, quorum, and 5 is what we have, or whatever we have, half of what we have constitute, or one more than half of what we have constitutes quorum. So if we have 5 people, then 3 people constitutes quorum, which is different than Climate Smart Kingston Commission, where the enabling resolution says that there are 11 voting members, in which case, no matter how many people are appointed, 6 has to be the quorum, because that's more than half of 11. So that being said, 5 is a pretty low amount of folks on a council, in my opinion. It's since the Conservation Advisory Council began in 2008, it's probably the lowest membership that we've had yet. And I would love to get more folks on the council. I will say that lots of people do apply for the Climate Smart Kingston Commission, but not necessarily always for the Conservation Advisory Council. And so I don't know if that's because people don't know the difference, or they're more inclined to not be interested in policy and development reviews and the initiatives we're working on here. But I want to just put out there that we do have 4 vacancies. and that we are looking for folks to fill those. I know that the mayor has been putting the vacancies for the different councils in his newsletter, and it's on the website, city's website. But if anyone has any ideas of folks that we would look to appoint, it would be great if you'd send over any suggestions. It's a 2-year term. It is volunteer, and it is appointed by the mayor. So I don't know if anyone has any ideas offhand of folks that you think that I should reach out to. I will look through past applications to see if anyone has listed the Conservation Advisory Council as one of their interests. Sometimes people submit applications through the city website and choose more than one board. So I can look through those to understand if there's any others, but does anyone have any ideas offhand of folks that you've talked to or that we might want to reach out to?
I can reach out to the land trust. I mean, the CAC and the land trust have a long-standing relationship, which I think includes you, me, once upon a time, Greg Swansea. There's always been somebody involved there, and it might be somebody. They have a pretty large board now. They just took on new people, so there might be somebody there. That.
Okay, great. All right.
What's the age requirement?
What is the age requirement?
Is it 18 and above, like voting?
No, I don't know that we have an age requirement because we've had youth members before. So we have had high school students multiple times. We've had college students multiple times.
How are those experiences generally? I was thinking about maybe reaching out to the YMCA Farm Project and seeing if they have any kids who are interested.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And actually, in the past, we've always tried to, well, for quite a while, we were trying to make it really a priority to have youth on the council. I will say, and Kevin can weigh in on this because he's been here a long time as well, is that it's been challenging to keep someone who's younger than college or even in college on the council for even the full term. Their lives are so in flux that, they could get a job that changes, go to school and that changes. Anything could change.
Mm-hmm.
Their priorities could change. And, it's also key that we bring on council members that have a broad depth of concern. So, not a one-hit wonder kind of, person that is interested in more than one thing and really working towards filling the whole position. But that being said, I very much value having a youth member on the council, and I think it's been valuable in the past. Kevin, I don't know if you wanted to weigh in on that at all. You've been here for a while.
Well, I was going to ask if, I thought you mentioned at some point Krista Maselli was still around, or she'd come back from Thailand, or no?
I haven't talked to her in a very long time.
I thought you mentioned something like during the COVID period, she just popped up and maybe disappeared again. I don't know. I haven't seen or heard from her, but yeah, she was one of our interns for people that don't know who she was. And she did a lot of the mapping on the NRI stuff. And yeah, but then she graduated and she disappeared. Went to Thailand and, stayed there teaching English for forever, it seemed. Yeah, that does happen. I think that's how I ended up becoming the secretary. It wasn't,
Maybe this is now thinking a bit outside of what we were just talking about, but maybe if we put an ask out for new members, but then also couched it. I'm not exactly qualified to do this, but I'd be happy to help. But maybe we do like a visioning session of like, what do we want the next 2 years to look like? Or however long the administration is going to be in power. So we are inviting people in, but then creating a space where we're able to kind of collectively think about what do we really want to accomplish here? Because just to add a personal narrative, I think I've been a little bit like struggling with that during my time. It's like, well, what are we working towards? What's our vision of Kingston? Does that, yeah, I see Julie, you're nodding. What is
Yes,
it? What
I love
is,
that idea.
okay.
I love that idea because, and I will say that, not that I always want to compare CAC to Climate Smart, but every January in Climate Smart, we kind of reevaluate what the year's focus is going to be. But there's also sort of a more direct link, not sort of, there is the direct link to the Climate Action Plan. So really that commission is really based on enacting the Climate Action Plan, while CAC is, or has been, more reactionary. So, you know, something will come up and we will react to it. So we, you know, a development will come before the planning board and we decide whether or not we want to review it or it's in our review. You know, a proposal will come up on a state level and we will decide whether we want to review that or not. You know, a constituent or a staff person or somebody from the legislative branch will come to us and say, you know, we want you to look at this initiative, this, and we work on that. Or, and then we have some long-term things that we're working on, but we haven't ever, since 2008, really sat down and said for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, we want to work on these things. In addition to, or in lieu of the reactionary things that we work on. I think it's a great idea. And I think that it will create more tangible initiatives and you know, efforts that people can latch onto if they want to be part of this. And so I like that idea. I mean, I was just looking now at the enabling resolution. It's very, very broad actually. So it doesn't say anything about, it just, the only stipulations really are, it says, it is consist of not less than 5 members, nor more than 9 members, all of whom reside within the city of Kingston, each to serve a term of 2 years and shall be appointed by the mayor. So I think that that is a good idea. I think that I'm trying to think of how we would do that.
Me too. I mean, we could try to do,
Because people would need to be inherently interested already in order to participate in that kind of conversation.
yeah, I think the ask would be like, you know, we're thinking, the ask would be, are you interested in joining the CAC for a 2-year term? And then I think we'd have to say, like, as of April or March, we're going to be sitting down and constructing our year plan or 2-year plan. And so if you are interested in joining, you would need to respond before whatever date we think they would need to respond for if they wanted to participate in that planning process. But I think it makes sense to maybe set that outer date first.
Yep.
And use that as kind of a way to make people respond before, hopefully.
Yeah, and you think we would do that at a regular monthly meeting, like in April,
I don't know.
or a special meeting?
Yeah, what does everyone else think?
I have a question about the overall mission of CAC, and I understood that one of the main reasons it exists is to review developments and items before the planning board. So I don't know how we would incorporate that into a plan, into a visionary kind of plan, because we have to be rather flexible. So don't we? Or, I mean, isn't that a major part of the mission?
It is. So there are certain things on our agenda every month that are really part of inherent to all conservation advisory councils, like working on natural resource inventories and open space plans, like development proposal reviews. But then there's other things that aren't inherent necessarily. So like work we've done on the Esopus Creek, or work we've done with trees, or any of those things, that's totally up to each individual council. And across the state, the work of CACs varies really. There's some core crux of it that we already mentioned, but then the other work varies based on what other entities exist. So for communities that don't have like a Climate Smart Kingston Commission, the CAC is also working on all forms of, you know, mitigation and adaptation work. For communities that don't have a complete streets council, that CAC could be working on transportation plans and pedestrian and bicycle access. For communities that don't have a sustainability coordinator or sustainability division like we do, you know, there's a lot of CACs that do environmental education, that do community outreach, that do tree plantings, that do invasive species removal, that do, you know, on the ground engagement stuff. And we've always operated this way, but we don't have to. We could, there is flexibility for sure in what else we do besides the basics. So I like the idea of, well, I don't know, Kevin, do you want to weigh in on it at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's yeah, I mean, you could expand the scope of what we're doing, for sure. But we'll need people to do that. Yeah. The other group I can reach out to is Grow Well Kingston. I've been like attending their meetings, and that's kind of a really interesting group. That would include occasionally Susan and Casey from the Y Farm, you know, right there. But there's other people on that. Erica Brown is on it from the radio station. She used to be on the Land Trust Board, and there's people from Novo and the Farm Hub, Land to Learn or Learn to Land, one or the other. Jen Morris. Yeah, there's a bunch of people involved with that might, if they knew there was a vacancy, be willing to fill in, that are, you know, quite accomplished people. Yeah. And then we could outreach to youth groups, you know, or bring in a youth member, of course. Yeah. But just remember that they disappear, you know, when school ends and summer comes and that, you know, that kind of thing.
I think one of the questions that I have received from people over time, apropos of being a member, is whether it's required for members to take on other responsibilities or liaison work. And you know, I've said that in my experience, people do that, but they would have a choice about it. So I don't know. What is the official policy on that?
No, that's true. The way you stated it is true. You don't have to do anything except for come to meetings.
Okay.
And if you miss 3 in a row, then technically you shouldn't really be holding the position anymore. So that's really all that you need to do. Of course, when we look to fill positions on any council, we would like people to be engaged and involved, but there's no number of minimal hours, number of credits needed. There's no qualifications. Really, the only qualification is to care about our environment in Kingston. You don't have to know about it. You don't have to be a professional in it.
Right.
And so there aren't any requirements such as that. But again, as Kevin said, and we were all thinking, we can't do more stuff if there aren't people to do more stuff.
For sure.
So I think I like the idea of reaching out to folks over the next, well, right now it's February. So if we were to say that at the April meeting, we would do visioning and planning for the next 2 years, 3 years. And then we could reach out to folks in the next 2 months to gauge their interest, to invite them to that meeting. And at that meeting, we can kind of have the final overview of our previous work, including this last year's annual report and previous work that we've worked on. And also I can, you know, come with a list of, or some suggestions of other things that other conservation advisory councils work on. And we can kind of whiteboard it up and
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love the idea of it being like, there's kind of, I love the historical element to it to understand and to help orient people who might be coming to the council new, who hopefully are. Um, and I really like the idea too of providing some ideas and then just letting people kind of like, like Lorraine has this incredible passion for air quality, which is wonderful and has taken her and the Conservation Advisory Council in this great direction, and trying to make, room for people to really like, what's that itch that made you want to be here? What are you trying to scratch by being here? And try to have that thing come out, because I'm getting excited now too, thinking about this. But I think it could be a great start.
Mhm.
Great, so let's plan on doing that. We will set aside the April meeting for that purpose, or chunk of it, and anything else we need to work on. And I would love folks to invite at least one other person or reach out to at least one distribution group that you have on your emails, or any contacts that you have, or whatever we can do to get folks to come to that meeting. And even if folks come to the meeting but don't want to serve, it would still help to inform us of what the community thinks that we should or could be working on. So I'll also go over at that meeting, as part of the orientation, the work that Climate Smart is doing, so that folks can understand the differentiation. And maybe the work Land Trust does, or other boards that that the city of Kingston is, sort of blessed to have. We are a community with a lot of commissions, and so we haven't had to become the catch-all. And I think that that's good. We're able to focus on things, but we don't have to be the catch-all to work on all these different initiatives. And so we have the ability to be able to focus.
I think that's a really good addition too, Julie, this idea of having people be able to attend who might be interested, but not have to commit to serving, but are able to then have their voice heard at kind of that planning stage. And maybe that could be the space where, we were saying how it might be hard for younger people to be able to participate because of college and jobs and whatnot. But yeah, maybe the ask, I don't know, Kevin, I know you mentioned the Grow Well, but maybe it's just if they have any students who are interested, or youth who are interested, who want to contribute ideas but don't necessarily have the time, like that would still be very welcome.
Yeah, the other person I could reach out to is my neighbor Robin across the street from me. She doesn't have time, but she's well connected to Clearwater. She had interned there, and she knows Maya and Caitlin Zinsley and all the whole crew that had been on the Clearwater at different points in time. And it's possible that one of them might be interested, or might know a young person that would want to do it. No.
That's great. Okay. Looks like we have a plan then. So we're going to have the April meeting be sort of a reorganizational meeting, orientation,
Okay.
visioning, and we can invite anyone we want to invite. No commitments needed, and we'll see where it goes from there. Drum up some interest.
If you don't mind me asking, when does the new administration begin, or when would the new term begin?
Well, the legislative administration is changing over. A lot of it is changing over this year. So this is an election year for the aldermen and women. And so next year in 2022, there will be some new alder people, depending on who decides to run again. And we'll know that this month. They have to make their declaration of whether they're going to run again this month. And for the mayor, probably know this. Well, he was first elected in 2016. That was 2016, 17, 18, and 19. So the second was 2020, 21, 22, and 23. So 2024 would be, or 2023 would be the next election. And that would be for mayor and alderperson at large. Because they're both 4-year terms.
Okay. And the Conservation Advisory Council moves in conjunction with those administrations? Sorry, forgive me. I'm like.
It's okay. Nope, not necessarily. So we are appointed for a 2-year term, regardless of well, the administration appoints us for a 2-year term. There are not term limits on CAC. There's not term limits in the city at all, actually, for mayor or any of the legislative branch or any of the boards. Well, I can't say that for sure. I don't know if what the other board stipulations are, but this board, there are not term limits. And many of us have spanned over more than one administration. And the new administration can choose to remove you from the board or not. But your term doesn't automatically expire if it spans over a different administration. That's up to that administration to remove you if they wanted to. And the way that it also works is that when your term expires, if your position isn't refilled by that administration, you automatically continue to stay on the board, actually, unless you ask to be removed or are removed. But really the formality is that you should really be reappointed and sign the oath of office.
So there's no like strict timeline with regard to the new members that you're looking to bring on to the board or to the council. Okay. I'm curious just because I also would have interest in potentially serving but I and Lindsay and I have both been talking about this and but I just have a very unpredictable next few months, which could actually result in me not living in Kingston anymore. So I want to express my interest, however, acknowledge the fact that there are some other moving parts, but it's grad school is essentially what I'm talking about. So if that for whatever reason doesn't pan out and I end up being around for longer, I would definitely like to sort of throw my name in the hat. So I'll just leave that out on the table.
Yeah, we'd love
That's
you.
great.
We'd love you to fill out an application. And I will say that there have been many folks who have started a term and not finished it, and there's no penalty for that.
Right.
So
of course, I just would feel I don't want to move too quickly. I want to make sure that I can commit, a certain amount of time. And but I will certainly, I'm going to think about it a little more, but I'm certainly open to filling out an application.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on that?
Oh, one question. I have my letter of reappointment, but City Hall's closed. So what do we do?
Yep. So at this point, they're saying that you're okay until City Hall reopens.
Okay, because it said February 28th. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, suddenly I'm not there anymore,
Yeah, yours said February 28th, but other appointments since then have actually said when City Hall reopens. So you can call the clerk's office to get a confirmation on that.
Mine said February 28th. You think it says September 28th?
No, I might have misspoken.
February, yeah.
Right.
February, yeah.
Right. So, but I'm saying that other appointments that have been made after yours, the letter hasn't given a date. It's just said, come in when City Hall is open.
Oh, okay. So I'm okay.
I think you're okay.
Yeah, I was like, okay, trying to figure out how they're going to do this. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So any other discussion on that? Okay. So let's move on to Hutton Brickyard Development Review.
Yes.
Kevin, you probably have the most.
Start that. Yeah. That. Yeah, we submitted comments and they extended and we had asked for an extension of time. They did extend the period. I downloaded the agenda for the planning board, which we can go over under planning board later, but it's still under, I think it said public hearing, but there's no attachments of new documents. We had them appear at the Heritage Area Commission recently. I think that was January, the same day as Climate Smart, the 27th, I think it was, the last Wednesday of January. And what they, I didn't get into a lot of substantive with them. Their whole purpose was just to designate the planning board as lead agency. And I think that's where, Suzanne wanted to leave us, she didn't want to get into a whole thing. It should be at the next meeting where there'll be a coastal consistency review. At some point during that process, I did discuss some of the comments just before I submitted them with Kyla. And they're taking a hard look at the zoning issue, the triple R zoning. If because it doesn't look like you can do the special permit in that area, just without a variance. And I don't know what the basis for a use variance would be for that.
You mean up on Lindsley?
Yeah, well, more than just Lindsley. Once you get, I'd have to, got to take a look at the zoning map and do an overlay of the site plan and figure out where the triple R kicks in. Yeah, it could, even where they're glamping now, that should be double checked to make sure that doesn't have the zoning issue. There's also another issue in that area, and that's the utility lines. I mean, I was aware of this going back to the Sailors Cove project, but we didn't bring it up because they didn't really have anything except for a path designated over there. But if they are going to put glamping and what have you, the utility line will enter into the picture. That's sort of like you're putting units under a utility line. That's not or very close proximity to it, not directly underneath it, but close enough. Magnetic fields. So that will be continued. I don't know if we have anything further to comment on it at this time. I did confirm with the developers that they did, or at least the architect and the architects, that they did get the information and they're reviewing it.
Okay, so the public comment period was extended till when, did you say, or did you not say?
Well, it's still open as of this next meeting, which is February the 19th, I think it is. I just downloaded it today. Planning board, February 16th. Now, what day of the week is that? Whoops.
Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, because of the holiday, right? The President's Day holiday. They're meeting on a Tuesday. Yeah, and it doesn't say, just doesn't say much. It just says 200 North Street, secret determination, heritage area, coastal zone. RFH, which is run out, or waterfront zoning, and triple R zoning. So we'll see what they come back with.
Okay,
So I think that's it for Hutton for the moment.
okay. Did anyone else have anything else on that one that you wanted to talk about? Okay, Esopus Creek Environmental Review. Kevin, do you have the most information on that, or did someone else?
I attended the, well, there was a session, I think it was in January, which I don't know, did anybody else attend that besides me? I'm not sure. I couldn't see who all the participants were. It was a lot of participants. A lot of questions were asked at that meeting. That was a pre-hearing meeting. And Dennis Doyle asked a lot of questions on specifics. And he was asking for how did you figure this out? I don't see an appendix for this study that you're referencing. And the New York City DEP consultants were like, well, we didn't think that was quite necessary to do that because we weren't considering that option. But Dennis was like, well, you should put that in there. And they were like, okay, please make that comment. So I'd like to see what comments Dennis is making, because he was asking for a lot more information. Mary McNamara was as well. And then when we got to the hearing on February 4th, I didn't comment, I just listened. And Mary again was there, and there were quite a few people there, and including a lot of stakeholders that were very upset with turbidity. So it seems like they're focusing in on turbidity. And one discussion, and I need clarification on this, and I can't remember if it was Mary or Dennis that had brought this up, and then there was somebody else as well, was limited filtration. Instead of doing a full-blown New York City water supply filtration, which will cost a fortune and require, bonding or what have you, perhaps they could do limited filtration of the turbidity that they're spilling into the Esopus Creek. I think somebody asked that question, and that's an open-ended thing, and I don't know where they're going to go with that. There was also Riverkeeper had asked for an extension of time, and quite a few nonprofits, maybe Sebastian would want to address that, I'm not sure, but a lot of nonprofits, including Kingston Land Trust and Woodstock Land Conservancy, signed on to that. Rebecca was the contact on that. She contacted us as Kingston Land Trust. So I don't know if there is going to be an extension of time or not, but it was requested. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, and I think they requested until June, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be.
Yeah.
Not the full. I have the draft of the letter. I don't know if I have the final letter.
I think it might have gotten approved, but I don't want to speak out of turn.
Yeah. Okay. We won't put that anywhere. That's pending.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So-
do you know what the next steps are?
Well, if we wanted to make comments, I think the turbidity is it. I think they covered the flooding pretty well, that they kind of help mitigate flooding rather than exacerbate it. And I think that they made that case pretty strongly, unless Sebastian, unless you disagree, or, Julie, if you disagree. I just heard them go on and on and on about mitigating flooding. They started off with that. So like they were trying to, say they're doing all this mitigation. And then they went into turbidity, and they didn't have all the information that people wanted. And then they went into Kensico. That was the third aspect. And why don't they do a filtration down in Kensico? And, that leads you back to a big ticket item that I think the city of New York's very resistant to doing. So, well, it's to be continued.
Okay, so no action right now to be taken by the CAC formally?
Well, only if we want to comment before the original cutoff date. Well, I think we have one more meeting before that, don't we? Yeah, we do. So, I mean, I could start putting something together, and then if turns out they don't grant the extension, we're ready to go, get it in on time. If not, the longer the time period that you have to look at it, the better, because if they're going to have to release these additional appendices, there'll be more information available.
Okay,
That's it.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how, Sebastian or Lorraine, how you feel about that. I'm okay with that. Submitting a
Okay
letter.
with waiting this way.
That's fine.
Okay. So Kevin, you want to draft something up?
Yeah, I'll start something on turbidity. It's probably going to be relatively plain English, because you really need like Jim McBroom or somebody to really, sort with the technical aspects of this out. And we don't have Jim McBroom here, so it's going to be plain English.
I could double check if you wanted and try to liaise with maybe just Rebecca even and see if she might recommend language to use around turbidity, because that was a very big concern for the 7 communities that get their drinking water from the Hudson River, is that they're going to be impacted by the turbidity.
Oh,
And I know.
yes. Yeah. Which town commented? There was a town of Esopus commented.
Yeah.
When they
Our
do the
neighbor.
turbidity releases, it goes all the way out to Sorgetes, and the brown water comes down and hits town of Esopus.
Mm-hmm.
They have an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. So it might be useful to try to, I know it's slightly outside of our, we're city of Kingston, but at the same time, we do share wastewater treatment, I think, with Esopus. And so there might be a way to just kind of connect that or draw it back into us being concerned about our neighbors, basically being
Well,
impacted by this.
also the beach and, in the swimming season. Yeah, if there, I never, I somehow thought it, for the most part, dissipated in the Hudson River, but no, that's an issue. So yeah, that's definitely a direction we should go in terms of comments, is the turbidity and how it affects the Hudson River. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you start it and send me
Okay.
a draft or something, I'll take a look.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Great.
Everyone, I actually have to jump off, but thanks for having me.
Okay, Marco, good to see
Thank
you.
you, Marco.
Hey, Marco.
Thanks, Marco.
Okay, great. Anything else on Esopus Creek? If not, we're going to move on to new business. Something that we brought up at the last meeting to put on this agenda was number 264 Lucas Avenue, the multifamily apartment proposal, to do a review of that. Kevin, did you want to start in on anything you know about that proposal at this point?
Only two things. One is I think what do they have? 16 feet of frontage on Lucas Avenue. I couldn't get the site plan. They didn't seem to have it on the planning board. It's not on the planning board website. I don't think so. With the agendas. They used to have the links back in 2020, but now I'm just seeing the agendas without the hyperlinks to find it. You got to do a search, and hopefully it's somewhere buried in the city website, but I'm not sure it is or not. So what I did was I had an old site plan that was in the Daily Freeman, which I saved as a screen cap. It was one of those scribed things that they used to have the links to at the Daily Freeman at some point in time. And I couldn't download it. I had a scribed account, but I couldn't download it. I had no permission. So I screen capped it. And then I zoomed in and was able to see that it was 16 feet. Then there was a more recent Freeman article on that project, and there was concern on bats. Their season to take down trees for the bat protocols is going to end, I think, March 31st. Yeah. So I don't know where they're going with this thing. They're not going to get approval by March 31st, as far as I can tell.
Right.
Unless it just gets fast tracked and rubber stamped. I don't know. But I believe there's some community opposition to it, around Lucas Avenue. People think it's, there's a scale issue. It's like density, too many units in a small residential area. So
Yeah, I think, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the zoning probably has to be looked at as well. Do we want to make comments on bat protocols, traffic, or I don't know that the zoning is an issue. I have to go back and research that a little bit.
Sebastian, were you going to say something?
I don't have any pointed thought. I was just trying to think out loud about zoning. Just the fact that there's, I think maybe, I don't know. I'm conflicted because I just hear multi-family dwellings, and I think that's a positive. I think that increases density, but then I don't know the specifics on zoning, and so I didn't want to say anything, but I was thinking.
This is 40 something units, and it's mostly surrounded by,
There's
one family houses.
Yeah, but it looks like on the bottom side, it abuts Fairmont Avenue, which is another, I think, set of what do you call it, like multifamily dwellings.
You can't abut Fairmont. It's on the other side of Lucas.
The property extends like all the way back, it looks like.
Yeah, there's a narrow entrance, 16.
Yeah, it's a very narrow entrance, but then it does not like directly on Fairmont, but it.
One question I had was 16 feet with 40 some odd units. That's a lot of traffic for 16 feet. And then the entrance onto Lucas, is that going to be a traffic issue? Like a public safety issue, so to speak, something would, Do you
But
need
is
a
that,
trap?
I don't know that that's gonna be their primary entrance.
Right?
Wouldn't the primary entrance be off of Bluestone Court?
You think so? I'm not sure. I couldn't tell from looking at the site plan. I thought they were coming out the other way. Let me see if there's anything I was able to, oh, when I put the article on that.
Yeah, I think the primary entrance is off of Bluestone Court.
Okay, well, that changes that a little bit then. Here's the last article on it. Proposed development on Lucas to have a February public hearing. Well, that's what's coming up. 47 units at Lucas and Bluestone Court. That's where I was getting a little confused, and I saw the 16 feet, and it looked like a 16 feet of frontage that they were going to use as a driveway. 16 homeowners on Bluestone Court raised a series of questions and concerns about the development, including its effect on the neighborhood's character and increased traffic. They brought up the bats. That's something within our purview. Traffic, I'm less sure, except for air quality, but if they have, electric vehicles, that's not going to be an issue. I'm not sure. That would be a thing to do. Are you going to have that many units? Maybe put an EV charging station in?
Their plan currently includes 4,
Oh, it does include EV charging stations?
two stations with 4 spots.
Okay, I'm trying to see if it says that in this article. Oh, yeah, have you seen the plan itself?
I have seen the plan. I'm not sure it's publicly available. I didn't find it on the city's website. I have seen the plan, and it seems like the main entrance is off of Bluestone Court, and that this 16-foot wide section is not necessarily to be traveled by vehicle.
Okay, yeah, I just got that from the initial submission, which was a little about around a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and it might have been a different plan at that point. They may have reconsidered entrances. I'm really not sure.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're putting in, for proposing 47 units and 96 parking spaces, which is per the code.
Mhm.
It seems like the development and all the different parts of it, at least in their proposal and their narrative, are to code for height restrictions, for length of the buildings, for accessory buildings, for off-street parking. The design has it such that the center, like there's buildings are on the outside, and then the center is where the parking is. And in the center, there's there are bioswales.
Oh, I see that. A rain garden to soften the parking lot, and aid in water absorption and stormwater quality treatment. Okay. Okay, they've done that. Yeah, that's.
Yep. I mean, so they have a planting plan that includes, dozens of trees and bushes and shrubs. They put in EV charging locations. I mean,
Is the EV charging, is that per like city code, or is that just their decision?
it is not currently per city code. It's not required. So, I looked at the open space plan. We don't have this area called out in the open space plan. Is it attractive of open space currently? Yes, but is it, identified in our open space plan as a priority location? No, it's not. And, from a perspective of development, in my opinion, it is multifamily, and it's not in an attractive land that is contiguous with other tracts that are valuable.
Right.
In and of itself, of course, there's the inherent value of the trees and the habitat that is there. But as a larger corridor, it's not part of a larger corridor. There's not water resources on site.
And
I
there's
feel like
no,
if we want to have housing, we have to put housing somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and are they doing affordable? Is including that in the mix?
There's now legislation that they would have to, so 10%,
Yeah,
at least 10%.
I thought this was big enough to include that, right?
Yeah, it needs to be over 5.
Like, yeah, the Freeman was a little like vague on that. It references it, but it doesn't state how many affordable units they have. But maybe we should just pass on this, I don't know.
I don't either.
Um,
There are other, I don't know what's reasonable to ask either. But like ways, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say ways to try to make people like, I don't know if there's like a bus route there or like, places for people to put their bicycles or residents to put their bicycles, indoor storage or garages for that. Trying to think about ways to encourage that. But I don't know if that's way outside of what's considered acceptable.
No, I don't think it's way outside. I mean, I don't think that it's not currently identified to be there's no bus stop there. I don't know with confirmation whether or not the UCAT goes down Lucas. I know that they used to, but I feel like when we merged, maybe they don't anymore. And I can't say that with certainty, but I know that some folks that used to be going to Forsyth Park have called us and said they can't get there anymore, but I can't say that with certainty. So, there is not currently bike infrastructure on Lucas Avenue.
Is there a plan to do that or no?
Not currently.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's not super applicable in that case, because it doesn't seem like there's any. I think if both of those things were true that you had just said, then there might be some sort of a case to be made, but it might be harder to make that case given no bike lane and no bus route.
they're going to have to follow the BAP protocols regardless, I think. I don't think they can just do that after March 31st. So maybe this is going to be approved.
Or delayed until next year.
One or the other, yeah.
Okay.
It looks like it might go down Lucas Ave. I'm just on the UCAT website. I think there's a stop at Miller's Lane.
Oh, yeah, that's in that vicinity.
Okay.
But that's a little bit farther down. Yeah.
I mean, there are sidewalks
Go to UCAT.
To the park, I think. Can't remember if there's sidewalks up to Burhan's. And I don't know if there's sidewalks past there. But I think there are crosswalks at the intersections along Lucas, but I don't think that there's a sidewalk.
Oh, really? At that stretch?
I don't think so. I'd have to look up.
Let me get that. Yeah, I can't really see one on Google Maps. I don't think there is either. It looks like it ends at Burhan's Boulevard.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at this point, do we feel like we want to make any formal comments? Do we think that any of the things we've discussed are warrant a letter?
I don't think I have a real critique of it. I mean, they're doing EV, they're doing some green infrastructure, rain garden, stormwater mitigation. The real issue is if you were one of the neighbors there, you might not be too happy if you were on Bluestone Court, but that, we're not I think the appropriate body to be starting to address that type of an issue. No.
Yeah. I mean, there might be a way to merge that if they're concerned about traffic. I think that's why I started on that bike/bus kick,
Yeah,
to try and merge those two things. But I'm also struggling with this and not super decisive, as I think my voice is kind of is indicating.
yeah,
It does
yeah,
sound like they've made a lot of accommodations.
yeah.
Environmentally thoughtful decisions.
Okay.
Having trouble finding the new bus map.
I'll drop it in the chat. I got you.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, I'm like lost. You can't try to see where, yeah. You say it's Miller Place though, then that's
I
what
think
it is.
so. Yeah, it's right up the road.
Right,
Here it is.
yes. Sometimes you can flag them too, and you can get like a link, you can get on somewhere else and it's not a designated spot.
Yeah, it looks like it does go by Bluestone Court. And that would, whose decision would that be if they wanted to add a bus stop there? That would be the county's decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. Okay, then
Okay.
okay.
So
That's-
I would say at this point, maybe we'll just keep following the process. I don't,
Oh, yeah, yeah, we'll follow it, but pass on comments for this. Yeah, that might be our one opportunity to comment. So, okay, we'll pass then.
okay, is everyone in agreement with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so moving on to the CAC 2020 annual report. I did draft up the annual report for last year. I circulated that. I'm looking for a few things. One is if you have any comments, questions, or concerns or changes, and also on page 5, there's a few things highlighted where I always ask each person from the council to commit to whether or not what organizational liaisons or appointees you are, or what professional development you have had in the last year. I'm going to share my screen for a second
Mm-hmm.
so we can see that and we can just quickly go over it. Okay, so it goes through the general background, any members that were members in 2020, and our 2020 highlights: the open space plan work, wood burning, air quality subcommittee work, street tree and canopy cover, Esopus Creek Blue Trail, Open Streets Initiative, USGS stream gauge, tidal waterfront flooding task force work, planning board and departmental review. So in 2020, we reviewed the Kingstonian and Hutton Brickyards. Letters of support for municipal initiatives. We didn't actually have any in 2020. Other environmental reviews that were not development proposals. You can see those there. Outreach and engagement, just that we connect with the public safety. And Michelle is our liaison. Special guests, we had 2 meetings with special guests. And then professional development. So just going through those, hold on, there we go. Actually, organizational liaisons and appointees, let's just yay or nay for if you are Ulster County EMCs, Emily, Kingston Land Trust, Rail Trail Committee, and Land Use Committee. That was you, Kevin. Is that still the case?
I think they've changed the name of it to Green Line, but yeah, there's a few other committees. Those are two separate things, actually.
Okay, so just Kingston Land Trust in general, and then
Yeah. I don't know if you want to get into all the subcommittees or not. That could, yeah, maybe.
Kingston Land Trust is fine by itself.
I can give you a list of them, you know, and you.
And if it's subcommittees of the land trust, like the land trust encapsulates it. Climate Smart Kingston, unless you want to represent it by subcommittee, that's up to you.
Well, it's sort of broad based, so it might be, yeah, like, yeah, maybe, yeah. I
Okay,
can
can you
do
send
that.
those to me then?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, there's
Uh,
a few committees that I serve on that would be useful to probably
Okay.
note someplace in parentheses or something.
Okay.
One
Climate Smart
minute.
Kingston Commission, Friends of Forsyth Nature Center, I serve on. New York State Association of Conservation Commissions, I serve on. American Solar Energy Society, that was probably Casey, right? None of you serve on the American Solar Energy
I
Society?
did, either Casey or Betta.
Public Safety Liaison, for sure. Kingston Planning Board Liaison, yes. Heritage, Kevin, you're on Heritage, right?
Yeah,
And
still
Friends of Historic
Heritage, yeah.
Kingston. Hudson River Environmental Society, that could be Emily. Ulster County Human Rights Commission. Is that anybody here? Sidewalk Task Force, Lorraine, does that exist anymore, or is that now Complete Streets? Or is that now something else?
Well, that's a good question. They're incorporating that into Climate Smart, which I've been attending, not Climate Smart, sorry, Complete Streets.
Right.
And tomorrow, I believe, will be the first discussion on sidewalks they've had in a very long time. So I don't know if you just want to call it Complete Streets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mid Hudson Regional Sustainability Coalition. Is that somebody here? Don't know, maybe Emily. Kingston Preservation Inc., that's you, Kevin.
Yeah, that's me.
HLPC, I don't know why
Yeah,
it's weird.
I'm still on HLPC.
I don't know why this is being weird.
And then you add me for Grow Well as well.
Any other organizations, organizational liaisons or appointees that I have missed?
No,
What
I have a
other
question about professional development, Julie. I wondered, are these listed items, listed trainings, things? No, obviously, they're not things that everyone attended.
This,
So,
well, this was from 2017. So
oh, okay.
I just
Sorry.
highlighted this to give people an idea of what kind of things I was looking for. So if you participated in a training that was relevant to this Conservation Advisory Council in any form in 2020, then I would want to know the name of that training.
Okay.
And I don't need to know it right this second while we're on the call.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, I'll have to go through my calendars and figure out what webinars I was on. It was.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so again, just so we understand, the
Yeah.
point of this is to show that we are actively engaged in the environmental culture here in Kingston, and that we are advancing our own, professional development, and that is helping us in our role here on the Conservation Advisory Council. So, get me any trainings you've gone to in 2020 that would be relevant. Any other organizational liaisons or appointees, let me know. And if you haven't had a chance, I'd love you to look through the rest of this and just give me a heads up on how you feel about it. And I'd love to finalize this by the March meeting.
Yeah, that sounds doable. Sure.
Is that okay with everyone?
Sure.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So then, any comments or questions on that? All right, then we'll move on to new business C, which was added at the beginning of the meeting. Sebastian, go ahead. You want to talk about the septic code?
Yeah, it was a kind of a brief thought that came to me. I had been doing kind of research on septic systems, or local policies, rather, municipal policies to help regulate septic systems. And Queensbury and Bolton had passed laws that basically before the transfer of a deed for a house could happen, the owner of the house would have to have a septic inspection that was done by building inspector, relevant party within the town. And typically that inspection involved pumping the septic system out. Person comes by to check it out. They have to make any repairs that they're recommended to them. after they make the repairs, then they go back, they have a certificate from that person, the building inspector, go back to the city, are able to then have the deed be transferred with the bill of sale. I don't know a lot about real estate things, so I just added that last bit in. I don't know what the actual formal title is. But I guess I was just thinking about this locally and thinking, I know within Kingston, I'm sure it's a small fraction of homes, if there are any whatsoever, are connected to septic. But maybe that would make it more politically feasible to try and pass legislation like this that at the very least would help to make sure these systems are inspected, not regularly necessarily, but at the very least when there's a transfer of property. And I don't know how. I found the code of law, so I'm going to send it over to you all and just drop it in the chat.
Yeah.
I found the plumbing code that refers to private sewage disposal. And I guess my suggestion or thought was if it's possible to amend the section, if it would have to be done by like a local law, or I'm not sure. And doing so to have that kind of a policy where once the home is, before the home can be sold, you need to get the septic system inspected. And so I guess I want to know what you all think about that.
I'll start with, I know nothing about anything related to septic in our code. So this is all something that is really foreign to me.
Okay.
I probably said somewhere in my climate action plan about how many systems are on septic, but I don't even know that that's the case. I have no idea if we're talking like 1 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. I think it's probably closer to 1, but probably not 1. And so, I mean, I think we need to understand how many we're talking here and what the current procedure or policy is. I mean, you have the code here.
Mhm.
I'll make a note of the code.
So I guess this is, yeah, so the way it is right now, I think the first step, Julie, yes, I definitely need to find out. I think tax code has the septic sewer hookup information in there. And so I can try to, or tax, property tax parcels would have that information. But here it's basically like, if you want to get a permit to build one, you have to ask the city of Kingston to give you the permit. That then, no, it has to be, the Department of Health has to give you a permit signed. But you can only apply for that permit after going to the city of Kingston. If that makes sense.
Okay.
That seems to be the one that we have right now. And then there's no, there's the owner should operate and maintain the private sewage disposal facilities in a sanitary manner at all times. But that's the only kind of requirement for maintenance that's put in there, which is, again, we don't know how many septic systems we're talking about, but that's pretty loose, I feel like.
And doing so to change the code, what is your intent with the goal of it?
I think the goal would be to add in a section that specifically says, similar to those two municipalities, Queensbury and Bolden, that would require a septic inspection to be done by a relevant party within the city of Kingston. I don't know who that would be specifically, before the property could be transferred.
And what would be the connection with Conservation Advisory Council on that?
The goal would be to ensure that these septic systems, however many there are at least being regularly inspected, because if they're not regularly inspected, they can fall into disrepair. A lot of the times people bury them kind of out of sight, out of mind. And when they're falling into disrepair, they're not properly emptied or inspected. Typically, they begin to contaminate groundwater and nearby water bodies. So I think the Esopus and Rondat, I guess, are the most susceptible.
I have an old sewer map. I forget what year it dates from. I'm thinking it's no later than the 80s. And I'm trying to see if there's anywhere that looks like it's not on the system. There could be. I'm just wondering what's going on in Wilbur. I know Wilbur Avenue has a sewer, but Julie, do you know like any of your old neighbors that were out on the outer reaches of Chapel Street or over by Clearwater Park? Were they on a system?
I don't know. I mean, we were into the city system.
You were in the city
On
system.
Chapel,
Yeah,
We
yeah,
were.
sure. I can't, this map is, they're not, it's color coded, but not, there's some errors in it in the color coding.
I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not opposed to continuing to have this discussion, but I think we have to start with how many people are on septic, what's the current procedure and policy,
yeah,
and what are our options for changing the code if there are options there. So, I mean, I think that that's a reasonable thing for us to undertake.
Okay, so I can do that. I can try to find information about septic. And then I'll try to put together, I'll pull out the information from the code as it's written. And then I'll try to put together a document that just has maybe the changes that we'd be proposing.
Great.
mhm.
That'd be awesome.
Cool. Thank you all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess the easiest way to figure out this, and I don't know if the DPW would want to give you this information or not, would be to ask them the extents of their system and are there any areas that aren't on it?
That is a good idea. Do we, Julie, or I guess anyone, do we know who would be the person to contact at DPW to ask? Or if they'd be even willing to?
Yeah, I actually think you should start with the engineering department.
Okay,
Department?
okay, so go over, yeah, they would have the mapping, yeah, for sure,
Okay.
they know.
So you can talk to Greg Krupp or John Schultes.
Okay, I know Greg, he took water samples with the riverkeeper.
Oh.
Do you have, can you drop his email in the chat? I think I might have it too, but just to make sure. I don't think I have his work email.
Yeah, the map I'm working from, it looks old.
Great. I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think that we should be putting, just like we have an air quality initiative, I think we should have a water quality initiative. And
Yeah.
starting with failing systems or a failing system is a good role for the Conservation Advisory Council.
Even one failing septic is too many.
That's right. Leave no septic behind.
Leave no septic, exactly.
Yeah,
Only we'll do it better.
yeah, that works. Mhm.
Okay. Great. Thanks for bringing that forward. Anything else on that?
It seems good to me.
All right. So moving on then, I don't have any other communications. Did anyone have any communications or announcements or events?
No.
Okay, reports and updates. Lorraine, do you have a report from Complete Streets?
It meets tomorrow, so not yet.
Okay. Planning board, Kevin, anything, other things you want to address?
Covered the two, items, Lucas and Hutton. I think those were the two issues that we wanted to address. Let me just check to make sure they didn't sneak something else in here. I don't think they did. It's a short agenda for this one. Wait, where is it? February. Here it is, February. Okay. 1 Miller's Lane, it converted office to a residential unit. No, that's not going to really affect us. 88 of Beale Street. Oh, no, that's a bed and breakfast. Hendrick Dyke. He's doing a bed and breakfast. Okay. Let me see. 241, 267 Rear Albany, Radio Kingston special permit renewal for solar project. Do we know about this?
I know about their proposal. I mean, I know about their concept. I didn't know it was to the planning board stage.
Yes. Yes, and there's the SBL. We ought to pull that up and see what we got there. Rear.
I think it's down off of Tom Pfeffer's property,
Is it
by
Eli?
the radio tower.
Yeah, is it like Eli Bache's property, like Dock Street?
Mm,
I don't know what the
maybe.
address of that is. That, where's my parcel viewer here? Better look at this quickly. Give me a second and we'll get to Albany rear. Should have done this earlier, sorry. Let me see that. There's Westside Park. Here's Dock Street, okay. No, this is 187. The other one is 241. Who is this? That's odd. I'm having a little bit of difficulty identifying where this is.
What's the parcel where the radio tower is?
Where the parcel is. And who? Oh, here it is. Okay, got it. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Kingston Radio Corp. Yep. 718 Broadway, that's them. 241. Yeah, it's behind a bunch of houses on Albany Avenue, right? Okay. Yeah, the radio tower. Okay. So I don't know that there's a comment on this unless somebody doesn't like radio waves, which there are people that could bring up health issues. But I mean, this is a renewal, not a new installation.
Yeah, but it's a permit to put in solar.
I have to look at this a little closer. Let me do an overview on this thing. This looks like it's a cleared parcel. I'm looking at the aerial view. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it looks like it would lay out pretty well for solar.
Mhm.
Doesn't look like it has tree canopy on it to, to any great extent.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
looking,
I think if
I'm
you,
looking at the parcel view right now.
if you drive up the thruway on the right-hand side as you get before Albany, there's a radio tower there that's got tons of solar under it also. I think it's kind of the same concept.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I can zoom in. Yeah, this looks like it would be a good site for solar. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's probably,
Let's get a FEMA flood
in
map.
terms of our mapping, it is probably in the,
Zone AE.
right.
It floods. It's in the floodplain.
It's in the floodplain, but I mean, the infrastructure for the solar panels isn't going to change
Right.
the dynamics, just like the solar
Yeah.
panels at Point of Praise don't.
Yeah, right, exactly. They're right on the creek practically. So yeah, this is quite a ways back, but yeah, okay. I don't know that we need to comment on this really.
I don't have any issue with it.
No.
I mean, I know there's a lot of other communities that are opposed to building solar in floodplains, but in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, if we're going to get off of fossil fuels, we have to get there somehow. And
and this site, because of the tower, is already cleared. Yeah,
Right.
you can see the tower in the aerial view. It's already cleared. It's a very easy setup. The access, they must have an easement or something or permission from somebody to get back there.
Right.
I'm not sure how that works. But
well, and they've already, this is a
Yeah.
renewal, you said, right? So they've already been granted.
yeah, it's listed. It looks like it leads to Temple Emmanuel, the path. Or to the apartments next to it, one or the
Right.
other.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if you drive out on Albany Avenue past Temple Emmanuel, the radio tower is like right behind it.
Yeah, well, there's a path out in the flats out there
Okay.
that looks like it leads you to well, it sort of fizzles out in tree canopy, but it looks like it goes to Temple Emmanuel.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right. All right, so, well, that would be for the planning board to sort out, not us, if they don't have access, that's not our concern, really. Okay, I think that was the other item.
okay. So we don't have anything from public safety. Michelle's not here. Anything zoning, Kevin? Zoning
Yeah,
update?
yeah, last night we had Strong Towns. Um, They're a land use planning people from outside of St. Paul, Minnesota. And they presented on, oh, basically, I mean, they were trying, it was on land use planning, sprawl, and form-based code. And the gist of it was to try to get people interested in restarting the zoning thing. And it was the part, sort of one of the issues that came out of or one of the events that came out of the meetings I'd been on with Andrea, Jeffrey, Tanya Garment, Anthony Tampone, and a few, Ted from the Land Trust, Ted Greasy, and a few other people that were attending from the community. And we had over 100 people there, as far as I know. That's what I was told. I was just sent the attendee list, but there was a lot of people, and I didn't know who a lot of the people were. They were all in the chat identifying themselves, and it was well attended. And it was pretty plain English. You didn't go into get anybody lost in the weeds. It was basically build in your core, get community input as to what type of uses you want to see, and get away from the what we call Euclidean zoning, which is what we have now. It's named after Euclid, Ohio, not after Euclid, the mathematician. And which is all use-based. You have your residential, you have your multifamily residential, you have your commercial, and you have your manufacturing and what have you. It's to get more into the form-based concept, which is advocating for more mixed uses and a new urbanist approach. So there was a lot of excitement about it, and Andrea felt it may be making some headway with any council members that were resistant to moving forward on the zoning revamp.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. So is there a next step from that?
Well, the next step was to try to there is a link to the recorded session, and I think they're trying to Clark Richter. I just texted on this actually. Clark Richter is going to put it up on YouTube, and he may have already done that. I'm not sure. And the next step is to follow up with the Common Council and see which council members are ready to act on this, and if there's a majority of the council to move forward on zoning.
Okay.
That I don't have a head count on. And sort of leaving that to Jeffrey and Andrea. That's their field of expertise. Or Michelle, if she were here, but she could weigh in. But so there may be action on that coming up.
Okay.
I'll share the link if I have it. Did they send it to me? Otherwise, I'll have to send it by email. I don't think they shared the link with me yet. No.
Okay.
Unless it's, wait, somebody sent something to the Land Trust. Do they have the link there? It's a feedback form. There's a bunch of links. Yes, I can download. I'll try to copy this into the chat. At least the recording itself. The feedback form, I'm not sure if that's finished yet. I think, and let's get to the chat. Okay. And I think we're good on zoning for the moment, and that we'll follow up on.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Climate smart, we went over update on the climate action plan, update on the climate action plan update. The survey just closed on the 7th, so we're gathering the input from the survey. I guess 225 people responded to the climate action plan priority survey, which is fantastic. So we're working on that and pulling from that what folks' priorities are. I updated folks on the sustainability projects. LED project is still wrapping up on our punch list, and the organics plan is still in draft form, or not in draft form yet. The draft is being drafted as we speak. And the parks projects are moving ahead, but it's a challenge with the winter. So a lot of planning and design work right now on those projects. We are doing, we believe we mentioned the pizza box campaign. So the stickers are being distributed to pizza places as we speak, for them to place on pizza boxes to remind folks that pizza boxes are not recyclable, that they should go in the trash. So we have 30,000 stickers that are going to be out there, out and about. We are looking for moving forward the energy stretch code. So that connection is being made with the building safety division. And I know that funding just came available through the Clean Energy Communities program. So there's a webinar today that we participated in to understand what the incentives would be for us to move forward with more clean energy projects. Climate Smart did review the Hutton Brickyards, as they were also established as a interested agency, and decided collectively not to make any comments. We did talk about Climate Smart goals for 2021 being similar to what they have been so far, really that the focus is going to be on the climate action plan. And I guess that's about it. Did I miss anything, Kevin?
Oh, the city sustainability report?
Oh yeah, the sustainability report was sent to the communications office. I don't know that they've made that public yet, or if they're going to, on what timeline, but when they do, I will share that with folks.
Okay.
So that's Climate Smart. We do have a new new commissioner, Roberto Rivera, on that commission.
Oh, right. Yes, I forgot that. I didn't open the minutes up. Yeah, I have all of them, which I'll get you the minutes for that shortly. They're just about done.
Okay, no problem. All right, Emily's not here for the EMC update, so we will table that. And the tree commission, I spoke with Kyla today, and she said there was nothing on their agenda, but they do have some change in their membership. Commissioners Sarah Wenk and Robert Duvall both left the commission, and 2 new folks were being appointed. So I don't have the names of who those people are. Offhand, oh yes, Karine Dutille is one of them.
Oh,
And
wow.
I can't remember the name of the other person, so I'll have to get you that for the notes. But they said they didn't have any applications or anything to review, so.
Yeah, that'll be, yeah. Corinne's on the Grow Well thing, and she worked extensively with the Land Trust on the burial ground, the design, community design for the public areas of the burial ground, the
Yeah.
non-cemetery portion.
Yep, and she's involved with the Future Fruits project as well.
Yeah, yeah, with Jared, yes. So, well, that's her involvement with Grow Well. Yeah, her and Jared attend that as
Right.
well.
Okay, are there any other reports or updates?
No, I think we're good.
If
No.
not, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Lorraine, can I have a second?
Second.
Sebastian, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7:49. All right, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording now.